Good evening, everyone. Thank you once again for coming for the second class, which is a reading module. So you'll learn more about what your reading module will look like in the IELTS task. So the first thing you should keep in mind is your reading module takes 1 hour, that's 60 minutes. So you need to keep your time in mind as well, just like the writing tasks that is divided into two. Writing task one is 20 minutes, writing task two is 40 minutes. Here you have all your 40 questions timed and you're expected to finish everything in 60 minutes. And then you have a variety of question types. We'll look at each of the sample questions as we continue. And then you need speed and accuracy. Very, very important. Very, very important. As fast as you are, you also need to be accurate because you if you go too fast and you lose your ability to be accurate, you tend to lose marks. At the same time, if you are so accurate and then you are too slow, you don't get to finish. And then, of course, if you don't finish, you are going to be scored based on what you've done. So imagine you're doing 35 out of 40 and you've gotten 32 right. That gives you 32 over 40, which puts you at a disadvantage because you've not finished everything you ought to finish. So these are the question types. We have the multiple choice questions, which you are quite familiar with. We are almost everyone is familiar with this. When you have questions and then you have answers A, B, C, they choose the correct answer. So that's multiple choice. Um, you've got matching headings. For matching headings, you'll be given some paragraphs. Paragraph A, B, C, D. And then you'll be given a list of headings and they will tell you to match the headings with the appropriate paragraph. So what's this paragraph talking about? Let's say it's talking about education. You should ensure that the heading you would match with that paragraph is something related to education. So you have to read all the paragraphs to know which one specifically meets the headings below it because you'll be given a list of headings that would match. And sometimes two headings can look very similar. So you might need to first concentrate on the ones you're very, very sure of. Like you can see this paragraph and you're so sure that this is the heading that matches with this paragraph. Once you've done that, you strike it out. So you have less paragraphs to read again and you have less headings to go through again to be sure that, okay, these ones that are left are supposed to match with this remaining heading. So it takes speed and accuracy, as I've said before. So you have to build this skill by ensuring that you've practiced from time to time. Practice your speed, practice your accuracy, because unlike writing, writing is subjective. For something like writing, your examiner can be kind to you. For something like speaking, for a module like speaking, your examiner can be kind to you and they would say, okay, she tried, he tried, at least he used these words, he used this vocabulary. But for reading and listening, it's strictly yes or no. You've either gotten it or you've not gotten it. So it's your accuracy is very, very important. Once you've missed it, you've missed it. Once you get it, that's it. You've gotten the right answer. So this particular question, true, false, not given, or yes, no, not given, is the one that I know that most students struggle with. I personally struggled with this for about 6 months, and I'll talk about it in the next or one of the other slides coming up. You need to really, really stick to whatever you've been given. So if a question was asked regarding that, ensure that what was given in the passage and the question being asked are the same. They mean the same thing before you tick true, because sometimes they'll put distractors there that will look like what has been given just to distract you. And if you're not careful, you would say true. So it's very dicey, very dicey. You have to take your time, read, and ensure that you are very sure before you write, before you take through. For false, you will get a negative meaning. So let's say the passage is talking about blue color, and then the question is saying, okay, let's say that my shoe is blue, is what is written in the passage. And then the writer as um mentioned that his shoe is red. Now you can see that there are two different information. The passage mentioned blue and the question is saying red. So you know that this is a conflicting information. Of course, it's a direct false answer. You just take false or no, depending on what you've been given. It could be yes, no, not given. It could be true, false, not given. But you see, not given is what you've not been given at all. Don't just assume. If you've been given something about the leaves or the height, okay, let me say the height, the color, the position of something of an item, for example, and suddenly the question is talking about the taste of that thing. Nothing was mentioned in the passage about the taste of the thing. Color was mentioned, eyes was mentioned. When you see that something has not been mentioned at all, don't just assume that, okay, this color is the same thing as the taste. You're talking about the same thing. No. If they've not mentioned anything about the taste, your answer is not given. Whatever question you've been asked, you need to write the answer in the correct form. As long as they mean the same thing, they can twist the form. The passage can have the word analysis, and when you're asking the question, they would use analyze. You have to be mindful of how you now write your answer to ensure that it still gives that meaning at the end of the day without you making any blunder in your grammatical sentences. So summary notes, diagram completion. So this is for those who have experienced map reading, is really technical, but with time, once you continue to practice, you will get used to diagram completion, more like a flow chart. So you start somewhere and then they put a box somewhere with a line that you have to fill. Sometimes just like listening, when we get to the listening module, you will get to understand better how the speaker will be saying things and you have to put answers in specific parts of the map or the flow chart. Yeah, so these are some question types. So for the multiple choice question, a single worker bee may visit hundreds of flowers in one day, collecting nectar to make honey. What's more expressive is the way bees communicate. When a worker bee finds a good source of nectar, it returns to the hive and performs a waggle dance to indicate the direction and distance of the flowers from the hive. We all know that the hive is where all the bees live together. So here's the question. What is the purpose of the waggle dance? To celebrate finding food, to inform the queen about new bees, to show other bees where food is located, to scare away predators. Who can attempt this question? What do you think the answer is? Can anybody attempt it? Okay, to save us some time. Well, thank you for attempting, but the answer is C because um it says that it performs a waggle dance to indicate the direction. That's telling you the purpose. To indicate the direction and the distance of the flower from the hive. So it's telling others where the location is, the distance, the direction. It's talking about location. It's not about celebration. It's about showing direction, showing distance. So you should know that that is talking about location. So C is the right answer. So when you are reading, that's why I keep saying that you need to practice. There's no shortcut to reading. Reading is just reading and listening, those two modules, you need to practice every single day. Don't sleep. Back in Nigeria, when I was having my first and second experience of IELTS, every day on my way to work, I'm practicing. On my way from work, I'm practicing. Weekend, I'm practicing. Because the more you get used to these words and the sentences, the more you build your understanding of how to interpret um, the passages to give you quick answers. And you need to be very accurate because once you've missed it, nobody's going to say, well, it's very similar to the correct answer. Let's give her no. It's going to be marked by the system. So immediately you're finishing, especially if you're writing computer based, you can get your results that day or the following day because everything is automated. It just ticks boom, 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 boom. You get your answers within that day, they compile it, they send to the students. So you need to be very careful. Read if you don't understand, don't rush, but be mindful of time. I'm saying don't rush because you need to choose the right answer At the same time, don't be too slow that you now lose track of time. So this is sentence completion. Another example. Walking is one of the simplest forms of physical activity and can significantly benefit overall health. Complete this sentence. What I was talking about, that you will be given another instruction. Complete the sentences below using no more than 2 words. So no matter what you write, don't put more than 2 words in that gap, in that space you've been given. So it says walking is a dash form of physical activity. Can someone attempt the answer? Based on that passage, that one sentence that you've been given, although you won't be given one sentence, but I had to just extract a bit of information. So walking is a dash form of physical activity. Can anybody attempt the answer for that particular question?
Yeah, I would like to.
Okay, please go ahead.
Walking is a simple form of physical activity.
Good, good. Well done. Well done. It's a simple form because you are mindful of the correctness of your answer. Anyone who writes is a simplest would miss it because what you've been given is in a different form. The passage shows a different form. Your question shows another form of your sentence. So you just need to ensure that you are putting the right form when you're writing. When I mean form, I mean your answer structure has to match with the new form given in your question. So working is a simple form. Sometimes you'll be given a question that is in plural form, but the sentence form you'll be given would require you to write in singular of that same word. So you have to convert it because you don't want to make any mistakes. It's a trap. They want to know if you know the right form to put there for that particular question. Now, matching headings. This usually takes students some time, but you need to, if you want to be fast about it, you can, if for computer based, I think you would have highlighters on your as part of the tools on your screen that you can use to highlight important information. And if you're doing paper-based, you can underline those keywords. Now, the earliest form of paper was made in China around 105 AD during the R dynasty. It was created using mulberry bark, hem, and rags, and was an improvement over previous writing material. So it's talking about the earliest form and how it was improved over previous materials such as bamboo and silk, which were either too heavy or too expensive. This innovation soon spread across Asia and later to the Middle East and Europe. So, if you look below, you will see a list of headings. Can anybody attempt the most appropriate heading for this paragraph?
Um, I for
I
paragraph A, IV, and
choose one.
okay, just one heading.
Yes, you choose one of the headings, the one that
Okay,
match with the
no
paragraph.
problem.
So they'll give you they'll likely give you more headings than paragraphs to confuse you. So you need to choose, you need just 3 headings, but you've been given 6. So you need
Okay,
one for paragraph A, one for paragraph B, one for paragraph C.
okay. I.
Correct. Good. Well done. Because it's talking about early invention, earliest form, and the spread of paper. Paragraph 2, can anybody attempt it? Paper making in Europe began in the 12th century after learning the technique from the Arabs. The industry rapidly expanded with the invention of the printing press in the 15th century, which increased demand for paper. Paper mills were established across the continent to meet this growing need. Can anybody attempt what heading fits this paragraph?
IV.
Yes, you're correct. Ivy is talking about paper making techniques. Yeah, because even from the first word, it says paper making in Europe. Yeah, so those keywords would give you pointers as to where exactly or what heading matches with the paragraph specifically. So, paragraph C, in the 19th century, the traditional method of using rags became insufficient due to rising demand. As a result, wood pulp was introduced, and as a more as a more sustainable and economical raw material. This led to industrialization of paper production and the rise of large-scale printing industries. So, can anyone attempt that? What heading is more appropriate or is the most appropriate for paragraph C? It's talking about, let's think, industrialization, talking about new methods, right?
V.
V, good. Well done. So you need to think as you're reading the paragraph, think, have it in mind. Sometimes what I do when I don't have time, once I've read the paragraph, I immediately write what I think the paragraph is all about, something very succinct. I can write industrialization in front of paragraph C, or I write new production method, or I write insufficient previous method and new production method. So by the time you now match your idea after reading with the headings, you see the one that is very, very close to what you've written to save time, and then you can tick it. And that's how you continue to check all other paragraphs. I think you'll be given like 5 or 6 paragraphs and then maybe 6 headings or 7 headings. And so you have to be careful because some of the headings will look alike, but as you practice in your day to day, you build this skill of spotting the appropriate heading on time. So this is the most technical of all, and that's why I had to give this its own paragraph. I mean, its own slide. True, false, and not given task. You need to know that there are some words that mean different things. Like, for example, this passage on my left, just over 400 million acres of land is being used for agriculture in America. That's a section of the passage that I've lifted. And then the question says, at present in America, about 400 million acres of land is allocated for agriculture. Some people will say false because the passage says over, and then the question says about. For, it's true because if you look at this note I've made here, about 400 means that it can be close to that side and it can be more. So when you say about, we are more used to thinking about being very close, but sometimes it can mean it could be more. It can mean I'm about 5 meters 4 inches tall. If the person is saying about, it means the person is not sure. The person could be less than that, and the person could be more could be taller than that. So that's how to use about. And there are other words that it's practicing that would expose you to the usage or the true meaning of those words, because sometimes we use them too much for certain meanings, but they can actually mean other things. And until you are tested, until you come across how it's used for other things before you know that, oh, so this thing is not limited to this way of usage. It has other ways in which people use this particular word. So for the second one, bookkeeping, this course will provide students with a comprehensive understanding of bookkeeping and a great deal of hands-on experience. And the question says, bookkeeping has no practical components. It's obvious because it is conflicting. The passage says, because sometimes they will not give you the same set of words, they will just give you something synonymous to what has been given in the passage. So the passage says, has a great deal of hands-on experience. That's talking about practical. And then for some people who don't know the meaning of great deal of experience, I mean, hands-on experience, hands-on is the key word there. They might just say, okay, the question is not talking about hands-on experience, so um, they're not the same, or they would interpret it in a different way. But it already tells you it provides students with that experience, and then the question is saying it has no practical component. So that's false because it does from the passage given. So you have to look at synonyms and see if they mean the same thing, or if what you've been given, if the question is contradicting what was given in the question in the passage, and at that point you choose false. So for not given, so I've picked questions for the 3 scenarios. For the not given, this is a passage, new enterprise module, understand company structures, tax rates, deductions, employer obligations, profit and loss statements, GST, and budgeting for task. The question is saying that the new enterprise module can help your business become more profitable? Has anything been mentioned about being more profitable in the passage?
No.
No, yeah. It just says that you would learn how to do your profit and loss account. I mean, your statements. And what statement does is it helps me to know where I'm making profits and where I'm making losses. It does not make my business more profitable. The module does not give me tips to make it more profitable. It only gives information of where I am relating to what I'm doing currently. It doesn't tell me what I would do to make it better or to make it more profitable. So you have to ensure that you're not interpreting things for them. Whatever you've been given, stick to it. If you are asked a question that does not relate to what you've been given, it's simply not given. Don't try to say, okay, profit and loss statement. Well, it means that when I know the profit, it means that I would know what I need to do to become more profitable. No, don't interpret for them. Don't try to insinuate. No, because when you do that, you'll be shooting yourself in the foot. You need to stick to what you've been given. Is it directly saying the same thing? If not, it is not given. If it is saying the same thing, it is true. If it is contradicting, like the false example we did, it's telling you hands-on experience, and the question is saying it has no practical component, it's contradicting, that's false. Most times, true and not given, they are very similar, and sometimes false and not given are very similar, but just keep in mind that whatever you cannot find in the passage, you can find other things similar to that thing, but specifically that thing you've been asked about, if you cannot find it, becoming more profitable, then it is not given. Don't try to say false. Don't try to say true. Now, this is your scoring sheet. If you are targeting a band 9, you can only miss one score. Yeah, it's that tight. You can only choose to miss one score. Is it that you score everything 40 over 40, or you miss one? And that's what gives you a band 9. If you are targeting an 8.5, you can only afford to miss 3 scores, maximum of 3 scores. You can see how tight reading is. Reading is one of the very technical one. Writing is also technical, but if you practice and you find someone to review your work, you will improve. But for reading, once you've missed it, you've missed it. So you need to ensure that you've practiced every day. You've practiced like almost every day for like 1 or 2 months before your exam day, and don't trivialize it. Don't say because you speak well, you've learned in English all your life, and Nigeria is an English speaking country, or you communicate in English every day, then you won't have any problem. No, this requires consistent practice so that you can build your speed, you can build your ability to spot accurate answers as quickly as possible. As usual, I'll talk about my book again. Understanding True, False, and Not Given Task in IELTS is where I compiled over 90 practice questions where you would see many true, false, not given questions, because TFNG, I call it TFNG, was what I struggled with the most initially. So whenever I I get every other question, whenever I get every other question type, I just end up mixing up the other types of questions. Like, I mean, the true, false, and not given task. I just I just put false where it should be true, put not given where it should be false. It took a while for me to actually differentiate between them, because if you agree with me, we are more used to true or false. Is this thing there? Yes, true. Is it there or not there? No, it's not there, false. So we are used to yes or no, true or false, A or B, black or white. But not given is a trap, because it will look like it was given, but it was actually not given. It's going to be a very subtle, they would introduce something new in a very subtle way. And that's where not given come in. Okay, so but you build this skill with practice. So that's all for today. This is my number and my website. And if you have any question, you can drop me a message on WhatsApp. You can also send me an email. If you have any question, you can go ahead and ask now.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
From the link you said sent earlier on the IELTS tips. I read an example from the true,
Sorry,
false,
sorry,
and
go, go. Sorry, excuse me. Go downstairs. Joe, take this chair and go downstairs. Go downstairs. Sorry, can you repeat your question?
okay, from the link you sent earlier today, the IELTS tips. So I read an example from the true, false, and not given, which goes like this. The passage says the Eiffel if the Eiffel Tower was completed in 1889 and located in Paris. It is one of the most recognizable structures in the world. And the statement is hold on.
You got the question from where?
One of the links you sent few hours ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so the statement is the Eiffel Tower is okay, sorry. The Eiffel Tower is located in France, and your answer was not given. This statement is not explicitly mentioned in the passage. Why is it not false? Is it because Paris is in France?
Sorry, I was not following. My kids were distracting me. Can you repeat your question again?
Okay. In the passage, it goes like this. The Eiffel Tower was completed in 1889 and located in Paris. And the statement was the Eiffel Tower is located in France. The answer was not given. Why is it not false? Is it because Paris is in France? I thought it was going to be false, like false. They didn't specify the Eiffel Tower being in France, but in Paris.
So it says the answer says not given.
Yes, the answer says not given. This statement is not explicitly mentioned in the passage, although inferred in the passage specifies Paris, not France.
Yeah. So that's it. That's why I said it's sometimes really that easy because not given can be very similar to false, depending on the question that is asked. Sometimes
Okay.
not given is also very similar to true. Now, the question, I mean, the passage tells you it's in Paris, right?
Yeah,
But the
yeah,
question is asking you if it's in France, that it's in France.
yes.
Paris and France are two different things. Paris is a city, France is a country. So that's what I was mentioning on Tuesday when we had the first class. I said, whatever knowledge you have, just assume that you don't even know that Paris is a city in France. Assume that you've never been there or you don't know current affairs, you don't know countries and cities. Whatever you would determine your answer should be based on what information you've been given. So if the question tells you, if the question tells you Paris, the why it will be true is if the question is asking you if it is in Paris as well. So that's true. It will
Yeah.
be false if it says the Eiffel Tower is in London
Okay.
because there are two different countries, or it says it's in New York. It's conflicting. But in this case, it is not given because it was not said or mentioned in the passage that it's in France. It was only said that it's in Paris. So did you get that?
Yeah,
So
I
more practice and exposure to those kind of questions will help you to know why it is not given. Like if you get my book, you will see so many samples, like the over 90 questions, where you get to see, oh, this is, I'm telling you, it takes a great deal of time to build that skill and say, okay, this is not given. This is true. This is false. Sometimes you pick false and you go to the answer and then something will just light up in your head and say, oh, okay, this is why it is true. This is why it is false. Because you are getting to know why from missing it. Like that adage that says, knowing what does not work takes you closer to knowing what works. So as you get to miss those questions in your practice time, you get to build the skill of knowing what the real answer is over time. Have I
all
answered
right.
the question?
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.